Okay, let's take a look at this. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. The stream appears to be live, and I think we're good to get going. Then let's do this. Hello! Shadowcat back with Magic the Gathering, and Pathfinder, and fun times to abound. Yes, we're back. We're back to working keywords. I know it might not be the most interesting part, but it is... Well, I mean, I guess interesting is kind of a weird word to choose. It is interesting, actually. It's a puzzle that needs to be solved. How do you turn one thing into another thing? So, I'm looking forward to it. If you're not looking forward to it, well, I mean, that's on you. I mean, you came, so you must be getting something out of it. Either way, though, I'm going to try to make it through this one. I am sick as a dog, which is not good when you're a cat, because, like, that's just bad. No cat ever wants to be a dog, like, in any way, shape, or form. That's just like a living nightmare. But it's a 2-hour stream. Should be able to make it through no problem. And if not, I'll just keel over afterwards and won't be anyone's problem anymore. So without further ado, why don't we go ahead and get everything in here so we can get started, because we still have a lot of keywords to go through again. And more so than I realized. So we need our browser, we need our spreadsheet. And I went through and added a couple of terms back in because, as I was informed after the last stream, the terms that were discontinued, they're still legal. It's not like those cards have been banned. They still exist, and they're still fun to play with. It's just that they're not reprinting those anymore. Any future cards that have the same thing would have different kinds of words used on them because those terms have just simply been... They're out of use. That doesn't mean that those still exist. They're still usable. And that means that if I want to actually use them... Well, if I want to have those cards in the game, I gotta have rules for them. So, a couple of things that we'll have to go back for at some point, but I don't want to go back for them right now. I have added them back in, but we're not going to go back and do them right now. But first, before we get started, and that is, we need to check the chat. So I see that Blizzard Star is in the chat. So Blizzard Star, you get a wave. And I see that PC Unicorn is also in the chat. You get a wave too. And then we will get back to work. PC Unicorn says, what about Cat Dog from Nickelodeon? Well, I mean, the cat wasn't exactly happy with the dog, but, you know, you make the best of a bad situation. Also, apparently the only term that is straight up banned is anti. And I haven't seen that one on the list yet, so I guess that we're just not there yet. So, get a drink real quick, and then we'll get back to work. So, where did we leave off? The last one we did was buyback. And we're on Shadow now. Okay, so let's take a look at Shadow. So, flanking, phasing, buyback, Shadow. Here we go. Let's see. So, it's a keyword ability that serves as both an evasion ability and a blocking restriction, featured in the Tempest block. Okay, but what does it do? So, an attacking creature with Shadow can only be blocked by a defending creature with Shadow. and a defending creature with shadow can only block an attacking creature with shadow. Reflecting the void of the shadow creature they're trapped in, this effectively puts them on a different battlefield. First in the Tempest block and was revisited in the Time Spiral block. Okay, this is actually kind of easy, actually. So, they don't exist in the main battlefield. Which means that they're essentially just an incorporeal creature. That means that they are kind of similar to phasing. Now, I'm going to just go ahead and assume, given the way it's phrased, that a phased creature and a shadow creature could not normally interact in the actual card game, because they're two different things and they refer very specifically to, well, in terms of shadows, only shadows apply to shadows. In this case, however, I think we can be a bit more broad with that. And we can say that this creature is just going to simply be incorporeal. One thing that I do think that I should make sure, let's see. An incorporeal creature has no physical body. It is immune to critical hits and precision-based damage, such as sneak attack, unless the attacks are made with a weapon using Ghost Touch. In addition, they gain the incorporeal special quality. Let's take a look at that. Can incorporeal creatures interact? So let's take a look. So an incorporeal creature has no physical body, can only be harmed by other incorporeal creatures, magic weapons, or creatures that strike as magic weapons. Oh, and spells, spell abilities, supernatural abilities. It is immune to all non-magical forms. Even when hit by spells or magic weapons, it only takes half damage from a corporeal source, except for channel energy. Although it is not a magical attack, holy water can affect incorporeal undead. Corporeal spells and other stuff that do not cause damage have only a 50% chance of affecting an incorporeal creature. So there is nothing to say that an incorporeal creature cannot affect they cannot affect a normal creature. Which makes sense, because I believe how we got here was looking at a ghost. And looking at a ghost... get the damn ads out of here. They do have attacks. I do believe. Do they not? Yeah, melee is a corrupting touch. And it does 7d6 damage. So an incorporeal creature... An incorporeal creature does still have a way to interact. Well, this is just one way of dealing with this. There is another. So we could go with the incorporeal route. But because I do play wizard, and I do happen to specialize in illusions, there are also shadows that can be summoned. Searching shadows, shadow anchor, shadow claws. There should be a shadow summon. Shadow enchantment, shadow mind, shadow invasion, shadow form, barbs, conjuration, shadow step, masochistic shadow, shadow projection, shadowy haven, I'm not seeing what I want. Maybe shadow conjuration is what I want. So let's take a look at this. Okay, so Shadow Conjuration. You use material from the plane of Shadow, which is, right next to the negative energy plane, to shape quasi-real illusions of one or more creatures, objects, or forces. Perfect. Alright, so here's the thing. You can conjure creatures that are made out of shadow. The problem with this is that because these are only shadow conjurations, they're not entirely real. And so every single time you do something with them, whether it is a summoned creature, or a shadow spell, or a shadow sword, or whatever it happens to be, these conjurations are only 1/5 as strong as the real things. So any creatures who believe in the conjurations to be real are effective with them at full strength. Any creature that interacts with the spell can make a will save to recognize its true nature. In other words, to make this very simple, if I am an illusionist, and I play an illusionist, so I do this, I can use Shadow Conjuration to conjure literally anything that I want. I mean, there are some restrictions, like, if I want to copy spells, it'll only copy, like, I believe a 4th level or lesser spell. But if I wanted to conjure, say, a longsword, I cast the spell, and congratulations, I now have a longsword. And I just magic that out right out of thin air. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to look like a shadow. It can look like an actual longsword. And then I can stab you with this longsword. The problem is that it only actually works if you believe it. Hence why there is a will save to disbelieve. PC Unicorn says, Shadow the Flamethrower. The kids love it. I get it. I get the reference. If you don't get the reference, you're not old enough for this stream. So anyway, we could use these rules for the for shadow creatures, which is to say that when you conjure them, they are only going to be so much of a percentage real. Now, how are we going to do that? I wonder, does it give me any examples? Here's an example. Actually, no, what I really want is I don't necessarily want an example. I want to see how many cards actually have this. So, rules text, shadow. Like, are there a bunch of cards that... Wait, didn't I just... Would you search already? Thank you. Okay. Now, there's a few of them. So let's see what we got here. This one costs 2, this one costs 2, this one costs 7. Oh wait, no, this doesn't count. This is the Altar of Shadows. I actually have this card. It's a terribly fun card. It's also terribly useless. Kinda. Or no, wait, Altar of Shadows is not terribly useless. Altar of Shadows is actually pretty good. At the beginning of your main phase, add black mana for each charge counter. If you pay 7 and tap, you can destroy a target creature and put a charge counter on it. It's not bad. The problem with it is it's so expensive. By the time you get it out, you don't really need it anymore. So what else do we have? What else has shadow? Here we go. The Augur Ilvec. It costs 2. Author Shadows? No, not what I want. No, that's a partner card. Okay, maybe there's not as many of these as I thought there were. Because that's a land up there. Here's one with Shadow. This one costs 2. PC Unicorn says, Alter Shadows would be mean with proliferate. I mean, it would be, yeah. And technically speaking, if you had any kind of cards that could move tokens from one thing to another, that might work too. My point is, though, that it costs 7 mana to play it. And then, even if you did have a card that let you get it out and just say, search your deck for an artifact card, and then put that card into play, its activated ability still costs 7. So you can only cheat that really once. By the time you have the mana to use it, you don't really need it. So let's see. This Death Ghoul also costs 2 and it has Shadow. This Doughty Horror also costs 2. It has Shadow. A lot of these Shadow cards are pretty cheap. This one costs 3. This one costs 3. This one costs 3. I wonder if these are ordered by mana cost. Let's scroll down to the bottom. Let's see. Scrolling up now, scrolling up. The Thalaco Sentry costs 3. It has Shadow. Yeah, a lot of these are really cheap. Which means that if you were to get them, it's one of those cards that you would pick it up and it would be with you for potentially the entire game. So, do we want to give it something like just a flat-out 50%? Or, what if we made it so that it was like a percentage real per level? That means that for this this Thalaco Seer right here, since you get it at level 2, if it was 5% real per level, it would come out at 10% real. That essentially means that you roll a D100, and there's only a 10% chance that it's really going to work. I mean, of course, they also get a will save to disbelieve it, but regardless. We could do that. Well, no. Because that's not how these work. These are always a flat 20%. But no, that is actually how it works. I mean, these things do come out, and, let's see. Spells that deal damage have normal effects, or have normal effects unless the affected creature succeeds a will save. Each disbelieving creature takes only 1/5, that is 20% damage from the attack. The disbelieve attack has a special effect other than damage. That effect is only 20% is likely to occur. Okay, so yeah. Essentially, whatever creature it is would only deal like 10% damage at level 1 if we wanted this to scale. And I do like the idea of it scaling. So when we look at, say, the, where is it? Here it is. This Thalaco Seer, it's just a 1/1. And so when it attacks, and it's only going to have, like, It's only going to have like a strength of 11, so it's not going to do a whole lot of damage on attack. It's only going to do like 10% damage if it's disbelieved. However, if it scales, then by the time you get up into the higher levels, your shadow creatures are essentially just entirely real. So I kind of like that. Here's the problem, though, because this does have to go both ways. It says this creature can block or be blocked only by creatures with shadow. So, that means that any receiving damage it takes would also have to be reduced. And I'm not sure if that's actually a thing here. A shadow creature has 1/5 the hit points of a normal creature of its kind, regardless of whether it's recognized as shadowy. It deals normal damage, has all the normal weaknesses and abilities. Against a creature that recognizes it as a shadow creature, however, the creature's damage is 1/5. Yes. Furthermore, the creature's AC bonuses are just 1/5 as large. A creature that succeeds on its save sees shadow conjurations as transparent images superimposed on vague shadowy forms. So there's nothing in here that says that a shadow creature is any more resistant to anything. So how do we make this work? One of the things that I have to keep in mind is that if you were to actually attack with a shadow creature in game, like if we take this Thalakos Seer and we attack with it, okay, it can only block or be blocked by a creature with shadow, but if I attack with it and it is not blocked, it deals 1 full damage. The Planeswalker doesn't have shadow. So it has to be able to interact in some way. I think I'm going to go the easy route, and I'm just going to give them a flat 50%. It's a bit high, maybe, but it'll be a flat, so it'll be 50. It'll be a coin toss at level 2. It'll still be a coin toss at level 20, which maybe makes them so they're not quite as viable later on. Maybe, I'm not sure. PC Unicorn says, maybe since it can go through everything, in theory, the Planeswalker 2, you just take emotional damage. Only if your Planeswalker is Asian. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to say that I'm not going to go with the will save, because it is summoned, it is right there, and I'm simply going to say yeah, I'm going to say this. Creature has a 50% chance to deal or receive damage. Oh, and one more thing. Or be affected by spells. Okay, now why did this jump on me? Alright, there we go. So a shadow creature will have a 50% chance to deal or receive damage or to be affected by spells. So you can target with a fireball and flip a coin. If you call heads, it's actually affected. PC Unicorn says, which begs the question if Nappa from Dragon Ball Z Abridged has shadow. No. He's just a ghost. PC Unicorn also says movement shouldn't be blocked either, I think. No attacks opportunity against. No. And I'll tell you why. So, a long time ago, there was a show called Stargate SG-1. And yes, this is a bit of a tangent, but you'll understand why we're doing the tangent in just a moment. And later on in the show, after running the Stargate program for years and years and years, more and more information about it keeps slipping out. And so eventually they're called in to deal with something because somebody's making a television show, and it's oddly reminiscent of the Stargate program. So they have to look into it, make sure there's nothing, that's being spoiled, that's being spilled, no government secrets are getting out, anything like that. And during the shooting of the show, one of the actresses walks up reading the script. And the script has her out of phase, which is absolutely something that happened in Stargate SG-1 on more than one occasion. Now, this person who is out of phase can do things like walk through doors and walls. Which, okay, we've seen that in lots of sci-fi before. However, she has a very interesting question. So she's literally talking to the director. She's like, I'm reading this thing. It says I'm out of phase. I can walk through doors. I can walk through walls. Why don't I fall through the floor? And the director is just like, I'll get back to you on that one. So it raises a really good point. It's like, when you can walk through things, why don't you just fall through things too? I mean, why wouldn't you? So, for a creature with shadow, I can't really, in good faith, just let them walk through solid objects. Number one, because it would be way too overpowered, and number two, because then they would just fall through the ground. So yeah, none of that. As for attacks of opportunity, also no. And the reason why is because you deserve your attack of opportunity. Okay? You, as a player, are entitled to your attacks of opportunity. And don't let any GM ever try to take that away from you, okay? You are entitled to them. You are entitled to every single one. And that means that if there is a shadow creature on the field and it runs by you, you are entitled to your attack of opportunity. Now, it's still a shadow creature, which again, 50% chance to deal or receive damage. So, maybe it runs past you, maybe you capitalize on your attack of opportunity, and you swing your great big battle axe right through its head. The emphasis being right through its head. You get your attack of opportunity, it still didn't do anything. So we can leave everything as it is, I think. Okay, next up is cycling. This is one of those that I think we can skip. So the idea of cycling is that you pay a mana cost usually, or you pay something. It allows you to discard your current card, and you can draw another card. So, like, I have many cards that cycle. I can pay some mana, I throw it away, and I can get a card. A great example of this would be the Chartooth Cougar, because, I mean, who doesn't love cats? But it has mountain cycling. I can pay a couple of mana, throw it away, and find a mountain, and then play it. So, the problem here is that I don't see a purpose for this one. The fact is that you don't need to cycle for land because you are already standing on the land. And the land has whatever mana you need, hopefully. I mean, maybe it doesn't have all the land that you need, but here we are anyway. So we don't need that. As for cycling for a different card, well, we're just talking about the spells that you know, and you already know the spells that you know. You can cast any spell that you want on your turn. You're not limited by what you draw from the deck, you're limited by the number of spells that you can play per day. So, cycling is one that I just do not see a purpose for in this kind of game. So, kind of like Vigilance, this one's going to go away. Which will bring me to Echo. Now, if I remember right, let's see. Echo. It requires the permanent controller to pay the Echo cost at the beginning of their next upkeep after they gain control of an artifact, or gain control of it, or sacrifice it. So I guess Echo is very similar to cumulative upkeep. So it was introduced in Time Spiral, Modern Horizons 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this permanent came under your control since the beginning of your last upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay the mana cost. But this was changed in Time Spiral by instead giving all Echo cards an Echo cost that has to be paid to avoid sacrificing the permanent. So it's just cumulative upkeep without the cumulative part. It's just an upkeep. Let's see, according to this, all Urza's blocks cards with Echo now have been given errata to give them Echo costs equal to their mana costs. However, the return of Echo in a standard set is unlikely as it's not very popular. According to Mark Rosewater, players don't like the downside mechanics unless they're especially flavorful, and Echo is about as unflavorful as it gets. And I mean, that's fair. Why pay for it every round unless you're getting something really special from it? So, I mean, we can make the rules for this really easy. Like I said, it's cumulative upkeep just without the cumulative part. So, spell cost must be paid every round, or spell ceases to function. Whether that's an enchantment of some kind, whether it's a creature of some kind, or an artifact, either way, if you don't pay for it, it's just gone. Now, in the tabletop game, that means it'll be put in the discard pile. In Pathfinder, that just means it ceases to exist. So if it's a creature, if it's an artifact, whatever, it just phases out of existence. Okay. Next up is horsemanship. So, keyword ability on creatures that serves as an evasion ability. All attacking creatures with horsemanship cannot be blocked by creatures without horsemanship. Again, this is... I don't know what to do with this one. So, by the rules, this is literally just another version of Shadow. Kinda. Sorta. I mean, it's kinda Shadow, it's kinda Fear, it's kinda Menace, it's kinda a lot of things. Flavorfully, the mechanic represents creatures riding on a horse. Horsemanship is functionally similar to flying. I don't know why I didn't think of that one. But since it's considered parasitic, meaning that it only interacts with other things in the set rather than the rest of Magic. Almost all cards have grant or specifically interact with horsemanship were printed in the Portal 3 Kingdoms. Until the set was made legal for Vintage and Legacy in October 2005, it had the distinction of being the only keyword ability that existed, or existing outside the unsets, that did not appear on a single card legal in any tournament format. So what are we going to do with this? I'm going to do a keyword search. I want to see some of these cards. I want to see some of these cards. Because if they all have horses in them, and I suspect that they will, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that I can see. This one has a horse. This is a sorcery. That's a sorcery. Legendary creature. It has a horse. Legendary creature. It has a horse. Creature. It has a horse. Every single one of these has a horse. Here's what I think we can do with this one. Because every single one of these has a horse, how about this? Creature, I'm going to say creature summoned with a... I'm going to say creature summoned with a mount. I will probably have to specify what kind of mount. And let's see. Creatures riding skill is... And how do we want to do this? Right, I'm going to say this. The creature is going to be the, it's going to be the Planeswalker level plus converted mana, not manage, mana cost. So, for example, if we were to look at this one, this Herald of Hoofbeats, it costs 4 to play. So you would have to be at least level 4 to play it. That's an automatic +4. The converted mana cost is 4. And so that would give it a ride skill of +8. Which I think is great. I think that's fine. That works out well. And that way, whatever it is, yeah, whatever it is, it should be fine. It's going to need some other rules. So, obviously, the mount is one size larger than the creature, because it has to be. But that should be it. That should be all that really matters. So the creature comes in with a mount. The mount is one size larger. Their riding skill is Planeswalker level plus converted mana cost. And yeah, everything else that you need to do applies. One of the things that we may have to do is when we get into actual summoning creatures, we may have to make a stat block for mounts of various sizes. Alright, well, that's not one that I expected to be doing, but here we are. Next up is fading. Alright, so fading is a keyword ability that limits the number of turns a permanent is on the battlefield. The vanishing keyword ability was introduced later as a replacement, as some players found the mechanics of fading unintuitive. Unlike many other cards with time-related effects, fading does not use time counters. Okay, so during each of its controls upkeeps, it removes a fade counter from the permanent. If the player cannot remove a fade counter, they must sacrifice the permanent. This acts as a countdown to destroying the permanent on the player's next turn, after the countdown reaches 0, which players found unintuitive. All tournament legal cards of fading were printed in the Nemesis set. However, they're using vanishing now. The ability of vanishing from the time spiral block is nearly identical to fading, but like suspend, triggers its effect as soon as the last counter is removed rather than waiting until the player's next turn. Okay, I can definitely see why they did this. So for example, there is this Cloud Skate. It has fading 3, so it comes into play. It's got 3 tokens on it, and it simply loses 1 per turn. Which, honestly, for this, it is a 2/2 flying creature, and if fucking Chrome would stop jumping around. A 2/2 flying creature that costs 2 to play, honestly, fading seems a little rough. But that's fine. So, for fading, we're simply just going to put a countdown timer on it. So, spell lasts a number of rounds equal to the fade counter. Creature, while spell ends, spell ends at the beginning of the 0 turn. So if it's got fade 3, that means on its first turn it's at 3, next turn it's at 2, next turn it is at 1, And then at the beginning of the next turn, it would be a 0. As soon as it hits 0, it's gone. Actually, no. I'm not going to do that. Spell ends at the end of the 1 turn. That's better, actually. So it can take its turn, and then once it ends its turn, it's just gone. Okay. Next, kicker. I know this one. So, kicker is an ability that allows a player to pay an additional cost when casting a spell to achieve an additional effect. It's actually really simple. So, for example, I have a burn spell that does damage. However, it also has a kicker. If I have no cards in my hand, then it deals extra damage. I think. Or maybe I'm thinking of a different effect. Either way, I have cards that have kicker on them. So, this one doesn't need much to do. So it is really simple. Spell effect takes effect if the kicker cost is paid while casting the spell. And that's really simple. I mean, that's all you really got to do for that one. Multi-kicker is real simple. You can kick it as many times as you want. This is impossible to work with. Stop jumping around. I hate these ads. So, Skitter of Lizards has multi-kicker. So it costs 1 to play, but it's got a multi-kicker if you pay 2 more, however many times you want. And I can't read it because it won't stop moving. Let's see. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. So, yeah, good stuff. Alright, so we don't need to worry about kicking anymore. What about flashback? Flashback is a keyword in our ability on instants and sorceries that allows players to pay an alternative cost to cast the spell directly from their graveyard. The spell is then exiled when the spell leaves the stack. Flashback's equivalent for permanence is unearth. PC Unicorn says Firefox ad blocker still works. Well, I guess I need to download Firefox then. I don't know. I had Firefox a long time ago. I stopped using it because it was a total resource hog. But then again, so is Chrome these days. So you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to download this right now so I have it later. There we go. Downloading Firefox. You're done, Chrome. You're just done. You're garbage. PC Unicorn says, I find Chrome to be more of a resource hog personally. I found every browser to be a resource hog, honestly. I have not found one yet that is remotely economical. and still works. Like, you can make a browser that is completely economical. You just have to disable, like, literally every single function. No flash, no QuickTime support, no nothing, okay? So that it only displays, like, text and images. Okay, so Flashback is an alternative cost that lets you play it directly from the graveyard. So we're not using a graveyard. When a spell is gone, a spell is gone. But that doesn't mean that we can't use this. So if the spell has Flashback, it usually costs more to play it. I say usually because it's not necessarily guaranteed. So if I look down here at the examples, they've got Ray of Revelation. This costs 2 to play. Oh, wait, 2 to play. It's 1 in white to play. The flashback cost is only 1, but the flashback cost is green. So this will only work in a white-green deck, minimal. Oh my god, this is impossible to work with. You know what? I'm gonna take a moment here, and I'm gonna try porting all this over to Firefox, because this is literally impossible to work with, and I'm tired of it. So let's see what's gonna happen here. I mean, I can't even read the text because Chrome keeps jumping all over the place. I mean, this is how bad it is now, Chrome, okay? This is how bad it is now. You have made your browser literally impossible to use, all right? That's how bad your shit is now. It is unusable. Okay, sure, I guess we can import stuff from the previous browser. Yeah, we can do all of that. Let's look at extensions. Adblock Plus, which is what I was using on Chrome, but it doesn't work anymore. Okay. So now we just have to see if this is going to work. Will this be any better? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this address. let's see. We'll go back here. We'll grab this address. We'll paste this over here. Well, doesn't appear to block all ads, but it doesn't seem to be jumping around nearly as much. So let's go ahead and we'll move this tab over here. And we'll duplicate it so I've got room to work. We're going to need this. PC Unicorn says, can also right-click ads or to go and block them if using AdBlock Plus. I find uBlock does work better. I've used AdBlock Plus for a long time, though, so I kind of like them. Okay. So, now should just be able to switch this over to Firefox, and there we go. Yeah, see, like, there's still a lot of ads in here, but at least they're not making everything bounce around. Okay, well, that was a trip. So I can close this tab now, and we can get back to work. So where were we? That's right, we were on flashback, and we couldn't read anything. Now, flashback here is going to be a little bit, I think, more reasonable. Well, I don't know if it's more or less reasonable, but for example, the one card that we were looking at, where the flashback costs 1 green. Now, in a normal Magic the Gathering deck, that would be a bit of a problem, because you would have to be running either white-green or multicolor in some fashion. However, for Pathfinder, since the land itself is guaranteed to have at least one of every, this is not the worst thing. Actually, I suppose we could do... Well, no, I can't. I'm not going to do it that way. I was going to say, we could put a -1 so that any 1s turn to 0s. But it doesn't make a lot of sense that an area that has plants in it, even if it's just grass, would not have green mana of some kind. So pretty much anybody who has this card could pay the flashback cost. That being said, once you pay the flashback cost, it is exiled from the game. So we have to take that into consideration too. So here's what I think we're going to do. We're going to say that the spell can be cast without using a spell spell point. I don't think we really necessarily called them. We did, or spell per day. Without using a spell per day, if the spell has already been cast. Do this only once per spell cast with flashback. And that should work for what we need. Yeah, that should be everything that we need for that one. So if you cast 3 of these spells in one day, then you can flashback all 3 of them. Which makes it a pretty good spell, actually. I mean, I don't want to see people like load up on these, but there's definitely some really good reasons to do so. And JP is in the chat. Hello, JP. Good to see you. You're a bit late. It's okay, though. Okay, next up is Madness. What does Madness do? I'm not familiar with this one. Okay, Madness is a keyword ability on spells that allows a player to cast a spell for an alternative cost if the card is discarded. It is primary in black and red, secondary blue, tertiary white and green. Okay, I really need to look at this. Let's see. Madness cards inspired a deck known as the Wild Mongrel, or UG Madness, which, using the signature card Wild Mongrel, enabled instant speed discard, allowing cards of Madness to be played at instant speed. So it seems a little bit like Flashback, except the card has to be discarded first before that can be cast. Like if you cast the spell and it goes into the pile that way, then I guess it doesn't work. I need an example here. Show me an example. Psychotic Haze. Okay. So Psychotic Haze deals 1 damage to each creature and each player. Alright, that's fine. Madness costs 2. So you may play this card for its Madness cost at the time you discard it from your hand. Okay. So if you discard it willingly or you're forced to discard it, you could pay or you could cast this spell for literally half the price. I guess I can understand the purpose of this in the card game play. It kind of makes sense. You have your hand of cards. If you have to discard this card and you can pay for it, as PC Unicorn says, anything that forces you to discard, giving your opponent a nasty surprise. I can definitely see that. For our purposes, though, there's really no reason to discard, just like there was no reason to cycle. I mean, and this is where things are going to get a little bit complicated. There is such a thing called a mill deck. The idea of a mill deck being that you can't play the game, and thus you can't win the game, if you don't have any cards. This can be done by simply making you discard every card in your hand, or it can literally target your deck and force you to just take cards off your deck and put them into your graveyard. At some point, you will run out of cards and you will lose. I don't know if that really has a place in what we're doing. And this needs to go away because it's distracting me. I can't do that. Technically speaking, we could have something that targets the number of spells per day you're allowed to cast. So instead of making you discard a card, it could target and say you lose one of your spells per day. Obviously, that would require some kind of will save against it. But, like this, I don't know if this is really worth our time. And until we figure out what we're going to do about, like, actual discarding, I'm going to skip this one for now. I don't know what we're going to do with it yet. So, I will have to come back. Next up is Fear. So, this is one of those where it's kind of been discontinued, but it's still legal. So, Fear creatures can only be blocked by black creatures or artifact creatures. Now, that's kind of weird, and since we don't really have blockers, I don't know if this is really that important. That being said, though, there is something that we could do. So we need to go back to spells. Because Fear is totally a thing that we have. Oh, and Firefox is going to take some getting used to. I'm not used to this. Cause Fear, Fear the Sun, Fearsome Duplicate. Wait, go back. There it is, just straight up Fear. So this is Fear. It is a level 4 spell, and simply put, an invisible cone of terror causes each living creature in the area to become panicked unless it succeeds a will save. If cornered, a panicked creature begins cowering. If the will save succeeds, they are shaken for 1 round. I don't think we're going to use this. The reason being is that it's a cone AoE. And if you had a whole bunch of creatures that had Fear, that would be bad. Cause Fear, however... Cause Fear is a single target spell. The affected creature becomes frightened. If the subject succeeds on a will save, it is shaken for 1 round. Creatures with 6 or more hit dice are immune to this effect. Cause Fear counters and dispels Remove Fear. I like this one a lot better. So, if the creature that had Fear, it was simply able to just target it. And since this affects a creature with 5 or fewer hit dice, and we're using converted mana cost for hit dice, what I think we can do here is the creature will have the Cause Fear supernatural ability. it will be able to cause fear to any target on its turn. However, because these creatures can only be blocked by black or artifact creatures, we can put something in that says that black and artifact creatures are unaffected. Does that sound good? Let's see. So creature has the cause fear. Spell-like ability. Black and artifact creatures are unaffected. And it is a will DC. What were we using before? For trample, right. That was a reflex save for that. It's going to be a will DC of 10 plus... Oh, let's just say 10 plus the converted mana cost. Okay, so that should be fine. When the creature comes in, it can literally just like point to another creature and cause fear in them. And that creature then has to make a will save. I like it. I think this is fantastic. So, because it has cause fear, just as a bit of a reminder, the affected creature becomes frightened. A frightened creature flees from the source of fear as best it can. If it's unable to flee, it may fight. It takes a -2 penalty on all attack rolls, saving throws, skill checks, and ability checks. A frightened creature can use special abilities, including spells, to flee, and indeed that creature must use such means if they are the only way to escape. So that would make your creature pretty well unblockable if the other creature is fleeing. And since they're forced to do that for 1d4 rounds, your creature has nothing to stop it. I like it. I think this works. Okay, next up is Morph. Morph is a weird one. So, Morph is a keyword ability on permanents that allows the player to pay 3, and it's always 3, to cast a card with the ability face down as a 2/2 colorless, typeless creature. The player can then turn that creature face up at any time. They could normally cast an instant by paying the variable morph cost printed on each card. Many permanents with morph have additional triggered abilities that trigger when they are turned up. See Bane of the Living. And some other permanents trigger when a different card is turned face up. Morphing doesn't use the stack. I believe that's just the turn order, right? The stack is the game zone where spells and abilities are put when they are played, where they wait to resolve. Okay, got it. So if you morph your card, it just happens instantly. Period. Done. In this case, so it says it is a colorless, typeless creature. Well, Pathfinder doesn't really have a colorless, typeless creature. So let's check the bestiary. Go away. Creature types. So we have available to us aberrations, Maybe. Animals, no. Construct, no. Dragon, no. Fae, no. Humanoid, no. Magical beast, no. Monstrous humanoid, no. Ooze. Maybe. Outsider, no. Plant, undead, no. Vermin, no, no, and no. So, what we need here is something to represent a creature that is without form. Quite frankly, there's only two things that can really fit that. That being aberration and ooze. Aberrations, though, do have a form. I mean, that form is otherworldly, but regardless. Whereas oozes do not have a form. So, an ooze is an amorphous or mutable creature, usually mindless. It has the following features. It has a D8 hit die, base attack bonus equal to 3/4 of its hit dice. It has no good saving throws. Skill points are equal to 2 plus the intelligence modifier. However, most oozes are mindless and gain no skill points or feats. Oozes do not have any class skills. So, unless otherwise noted, they are mindless, and so immune to all mind-affecting effects. They are blind, but they do have blind sight. They are immune to poison, sleep, paralysis, polymorph, and stunning. Some deal acid damage, but that's not guaranteed, and ours won't. They are not subject to critical hits or flanking. They do not take precision damage. I think this is the way to go. So, a morphed creature. So the creature can be cast for 3 mana as a 2/2 small ooze. And that's it. So it just comes out and it's a puddle of ooze on the ground until eventually you decide to morph it, and it rises up from the ooze and becomes whatever it is that it's supposed to be. Now, since it can be cast as a 2/2 for 3 mana, that does mean that potentially you could get a very large creature that you can't even afford the mana cost on, and you're just relegated to playing it as a morphed creature until the day that you have enough mana that you can actually flip that card. It could be a way to kind of prepare for the future if you wanted to have a whole bunch of really big creatures. Okay, next is going to be Amplify. Let's take a look. Where was it? Even Firefox still bounces around a bit with all the frickin' ads loading. Alright, Amplify is a keyword ability that allows a player to reveal creature cards in their hand that share a type. Oh right, I know this ability. I have a dragon that has this. That creature enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters for each such card revealed. Some creatures that Amplify have additional abilities tied to the number of 1/1 counters. Okay, and specifically they even put the Kill-and-Mouth Dragon on there. This is the one that I have. Look at him. Look upon his mighty maw and despair. So, PC Unicorn says that should work, although off chance there is a creature type ooze, and a nasty ooze that gets bonuses for every other ooze. Okay, that's fair. Well, we may have to change this then. So maybe it's not an ooze. That is a fair point. So maybe we'll just borrow directly from the text. Maybe we'll just call it it'll be a small formless humanoid. Alright, we'll make it a humanoid instead, because I'm pretty sure there is no creature type in Magic the Gathering called humanoid. Human, yes, but not humanoid. But that should pretty much be right in the middle of everything we want. It'll just be like essentially a child mannequin thing. Okay, back to Amplify though. Here's a problem. So the way Amplify works is that you reveal cards in your hand. Well, in Pathfinder, you won't have a hand. But maybe we don't need that. Because in Magic the Gathering, you can hold up to 7 cards in your hand. With Amplify, or in Pathfinder, you're not even going to have 7 spells until higher up. If we look at the Planeswalker, spells per day, spells known, you won't even have 7 spells until level 4. So here's what I think we can do. And perhaps this will be a little bit broken. But what if, using the Killing-Mouth Dragon here as an example, the Killing-Mouth Dragon gets amplified 3. So it enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 counters on it for every other dragon that I reveal from my hand. What if we used Amplify, but instead of it being your hand, it is simply how many other creatures of that type you know? So the Killing-Mouth Dragon costs 7 to play, which means that you will not even be able to play this card until you are level 7. If we look over here, at level 7, you'll get 21 spells per day, and spells known will be 14. You could load up on dragon spells. I mean, spells known 14. You could have a lot of dragon spells in your. You could have a lot of dragon spells in your repertoire. And perhaps you got Amplify for every dragon spell you know. You could trigger the Amplify cost then. Here's what we have to consider though. I'm gonna hate this search. I'm really gonna hate this search. Types. I want creature types. Subtypes. I want dragon. Okay? I want dragon. Sort order. I want mana value. So, how many of these things could we have? Can we get, like, 14 dragons and still be able to play them? Well, this dragon costs 0. And so does this one. And so does this one. Oh wait, this is an enchant creature. This one is also... This is also an enchantment creature. The Sheevan Devastator costs 1 plus X. And it enters with a number of counters on it equal to whatever X is. Seems like a fun card. I want one of those. But right now we're up to 1, 2, 3, 4. That's an instant. 5. It says a dragon rogue, but it's still a dragon technically. So we'll call that one 6. 7. It's a dragon bard. Still a dragon though. So we'll call that 8. Dragon barbarian is 9. Yeah, we could actually load up on these. If we were counting just the dragons that you had in your repertoire, that could potentially be 13 times 3, because the Kill 'Em Out Dragon gets 3 1/1 counters, which would give it a plus 39, 39. On top of it already being a 5/5. That is, like, wildly unrealistic. I mean, it could be done. I feel like that it would kind of hurt you as much as it would hurt anyone else. Because to get that 39/39, you would be taking no other creature types, you'd be taking no other spells. But it could be done, and it's rather broken. So we have to limit it in some way. If we limited it by, let's say it's converted mana cost, that means a Kill 'Em Out Dragon could still be amplified 7 times. That's still a plus 21, 21. Which would make it a 26, 26 flying, fire-breathing dragon. Which is, you know, enormous. I mean, what was the size categories? 21 plus is colossal. Oh, that's power and toughness. That's power plus toughness, rather. So yeah, it's colossal on just its power alone. Amplify could be tricky. It could be terribly broken. But then again, I mean, when I think about this, isn't it being broken kind of the point, though? Like, you could pull this off in an actual Magic the Gathering table. So the most you could have is 7 cards in your hand. If you were holding a dragon in every single card, and you had a full hand, technically speaking, you could play the Kill 'Em Out Dragon. And when you play it, you turn your hand around and you reveal 6 other dragons. Now, are the odds of this happening good? No, they're not. But it could be done. If you did that with 6 other dragons in your hand, that would be a plus 18 plus 18. making the Killermouth Dragon a 23/23 creature, with flying and fire breathing. That would be an incredibly powerful creature. So is it broken? Well, technically, no. Because for all of its might and bluster as a 23/23 dragon, it can still be unsummoned with a card that costs 1 blue to play. It can still be killed with a black card that costs 2 to play. It could be countered when it comes out by a blue card that costs 2 to play. It could be pacified by a white card that costs 2 to play. I'm inclined to let it be boosted by every other dragon that you know. And that's just for this one. I'm inclined to let this ride for all other all other things with Amplify. I may regret this. Okay, so let's see. So creature benefits from Amplify for every other spell you know with the same creature subtype. It is subtype, right? Well, same creature type. Alright, so that could be like severely broken, but we'll let it go. Again, it has enough counters that I'm not too worried about it. The question would simply be, do you know them? And to be fair, to be absolutely fair, the card Unsummon, and this could be awful. Where is it? There it is. I mean, this card has been around forever. But this is Unsummon. It costs 1 to play. Which means that anyone who is playing a Planeswalker will be able to carry this spell and use it. Because the minimum amount of mana in any given area will be 1. There may not be a lot of mana, but there's guaranteed to be at least 1 of everything. At least for now. Perhaps I should amend that. I did mention earlier potentially amending that and making it so it's possible for there to be 0 mana in an area. I don't know yet. But the point is, if you're going up against another Planeswalker and you're on equal levels, you can spend 7 mana and you can play the Killermouth Dragon fully amplified. We're talking plus 39, plus 39, making this dragon an absolute god among living things. At the same time, though, they can simply cast Unsummon. And it's gone. And Unsummon is an instant. They can do it on your turn. So, if you're both equal levels, you both have 21 spells per day, you can cast the Killermouth Dragon 21 times, and they can unsummon it 21 times. which is such a blue deck thing to do. It's like now no one's going to have any fun. So, yeah, I think we can let this ride. I think it'll be absolutely terrifying if you get it out, but otherwise, I mean, if you come across the wrong wizard, you're not going to have any fun. Okay, almost out of time for today. We haven't got nearly as much progress as I hoped we would. Next up is Provoke. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Provoke is a keyword on creatures that allows a player during their declare attacker step to untap a creature the defending player controls and require that creature to block the attacking creature with Provoke. The block must still be legal. Example, a non-flying creature cannot block a flying creature even if they try to provoke it. This is a weird one. So, it forces you to block, but at the same time, we're not really using blocking. We discussed in the last one that block is going to equal attack of opportunity. And that being said, that means that Provoke would force a target to use an attack of opportunity. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, though. PC in Accord says basically force it to change targets. I mean, maybe. There is something that we could use, though. So we're going to go back to the classes, and we're going to look for a very specific class. Not one of the core classes that you're familiar with. We're going to go to the Pathfinder classes. Specifically, I'm looking for... the Cavalier. So the Cavaliers are essentially knights in shining armor. They come with mounts, they come with banners, they come with lances, they wear armor. They are the picturesque knight in shining armor. And as a knight, they get a few things. So at level 1, they of course get a mount, because what is a knight in shining armor if he does not have a steed? They're a part of an order, because of course they are. They're a tactician, because again, of course they are. But one thing they do get is challenge. They can challenge somebody once per day. Now, what does that mean? Once per day, the Cavalier can challenge a foe to combat. As a swift action, they choose one target within sight to challenge. The Cavalier's melee attacks deal extra damage whenever the attacks are made against the target of his challenge. The extra damage is equal to the Cavalier's level. The Cavalier can use this ability once per day at first level, and one additional time per day for every 3 levels beyond the first, to a maximum of 7 times per day at the 19th level. Challenging a foe requires much of the Cavalier's concentration. They take a -2 penalty to their armor class, except against attacks made by the target of his challenge. It remains in effect until the target is dead or unconscious, or until combat ends. Each challenge also includes another effect, which is listed in the section describing the Cavalier's order. What we could do is we could take Provoke and essentially change it to Challenge. So we can't force them to block. We can't force them to use an attack of opportunity. But we could make that creature focus on us. And if they choose to ignore it, then, you know, they're just going to get butchered. Now, what kind of bonuses they're going to get depends on the order. And there's a few orders. So let's take a look at these. Cavalier orders from D20. Here we go, from Paizo. Order the Reins, Order the Green, Hero, Monument, Whip, Blossom, Asp, Eel, Waves, Blue Rose, Cockatrice, Dragon. Order of the Land? Order the Star, Order the Sword. I was kind of hoping to be more like a universal one, but maybe not. I don't see any here. Let's look at the hero. I mean, the hero is kind of basic. So, for the hero, you must choose an area. We don't care about this. For the challenge, whenever the hero cavalier issues a challenge, they receive a +1 morale bonus on melee damage rolls against the target, if it is at least one size category larger than they are. Maybe. Well, you know what? I don't even have to do this. I don't even have to do this. Because, I can just make up whatever I want. This is my game. I can do what I want. Alright, so, here's what we're gonna do. For Provoke, creature has the challenge class feature. Creature gets a +2 to attacks against challenged creature. So since you automatically take a -2 penalty to your AC, except against the other creature, I'm going to give a +2 to your attacks against the challenged creature. And there we go. So, next up is Storm. And hopefully this one will be easy too. Alright, I need to get back to here. Stop moving. There it is. Storm. Okay. Storm is a keyword ability that creates a copy of the spell when it is cast, for each spell cast before it in the current turn. It can become extremely powerful in decks that arrange for many cheap spells to be cast in a turn. Storm is well known for the namesake of Storm Scale, which measures the unlikelihood of a mechanic returning, measures the unlikelihood of a mechanic returning to the standard format, because it is considered one of the most broken mechanics ever. Oh god, and I was worried about Amplify. What am I getting into here? Okay, what does it say? Storm was introduced as a major keyword in Scourge and returned in several cards of the Time Spiral block. In 2012, 5 years after the last being used in Standard Legal Set, Rosewater received a question asking him to rate the chance of another mechanic returning on a scale of Storm 10. This led him to create the Storm Scale, as he considered Storm so broken that it was judged the least likely mechanic to ever return to standard format. He elaborated, quote, "Note that the Storm scale isn't if they will actually return, it is a scale of what I, as head designer, am willing and not willing to bring back. Storm is a mechanic I don't want to bring back more than other mechanics that also shouldn't come back. Storm is probably the most broken mechanic we've ever created, and it's caused problems every time we brought it back. I've compared the mechanic to a dysfunctional relationship where R&D keeps thinking that this time things will be different. I never say never, but there would have to be a pretty strong reason to ever bring Storm back." Wow. So that's a lot. I'm going to need, like, what is this? Grape Shot. Grape Shot deals 1 damage to any target. Storm. When you cast this spell, copy it for each spell cast before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the spell copies. So, is it just any other spell? Or does it have to be other Grape Shot spells? I mean, if it's any other spell, I guess I can see how that could be, kind of rough. Because everything is a spell except for land. So if you had, like, say, 10 mana out, and you played a whole bunch of, like, goblins or elves or something, like, let's say I've got 10 mana and I played 6 goblins. And I have 2 mana left. Then I play Grape Shot. I guess that means that I get to Grape Shot 7 times? Once for the actual Grape Shot, and then 6 more for the other goblins I played. Now for Grape Shot, that's just dealing 1 damage to any target, which isn't much. Let's see, notable cards with Storm. There's Shatterstorm. What is this? Create a 1/1 green squirrel creature token, and it has Storm. Well, tokens aren't spells, so the usefulness seems limited. PC Unicorn says, there's a stupid broken deck which uses all 0 cast cards. Something that returns them all back to your hand, and wash, rinse, repeat until you storm for dead. Okay, I mean, I would have to see that actual deck. Temporal Fissure. Return target permanent to its owner's hand and has Storm. PC Unicorn says cast 5 spells before that, create 6 squirrels. Yes, I understand that. But 6 1/1 squirrel tokens is not the end of the world. It's annoying. You're going to get nibbled. But it's not the end of the world. Also, what's kind of funny is that, because of the rules that we have right now, anything that has power and toughness 0 to 4 is small. And a 1/1 squirrel token has power and toughness of 2. Which means that a squirrel token is going to be small. The problem here is that squirrels are actually tiny. And so every single one of these 1/1 squirrel tokens is essentially going to be a dire squirrel. Okay, it's going to be a squirrel that is like 3 feet long. Before the tail. Okay? I just need you to close your eyes and picture a 2 to 3 foot long squirrel. That suddenly makes a squirrel deck a lot more terrifying. PC Unicorn says, combined with Doubling Season and many others that double up your tokens, and you have an army of squirrels. Yes, I know squirrel decks. I have fought squirrel decks. I am just as afraid of squirrels as everyone else is. And now that we've established that squirrels are going to be 2 to 3 feet long, I'm more afraid of squirrels. Let's see. Empty the Warrens. Create 2 red 1/1 goblin creature tokens. And it has Storm. Now see, that's a card that I need. I need that card for my goblin deck. So that I can sit there with, like, 6 mana and just say, okay, shock, shock, lightning bolt, empty the Warrens. Let's see. So here's a problem. Because of the way we're playing, unless it's an instant, you don't get to play more than 1 card per turn, or more than 1 spell per turn. It would have to only trigger on instants because casting a spell, a sorcery, a creature, whatever, unless it has flash, is a standard action, and you only get 1 standard action per turn. That really, really takes the wind out of Storm's sails. You would have to have a whole bunch of instants, and even then, you're generally only allowed to have 1 instant or swift spell per turn. That's instant or swift, not both. So we're only looking at, like, Storm being able to use or to be done once. And when we look at these, like Grape Shot, that just means that you'll be able to deal 2 damage to 2 separate targets. Or, well, in this case, because this is a sorcery, it does get to roll 2 dice because no, it's only 1 dice, excuse me. Yeah, it only deals 1 damage, period. Even with Empty the Warrens, it creates 2 red goblins. Or 2 1/1 red goblins, excuse me. If you cast a swift, or use a swift action to cast a spell before, it goes up to 4. So, honestly, this is not as broken in this game as it would be in the normal tabletop game. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing. So, we're actually going to take the rules, and we're going to take them pretty literally. We're going to say, copy this spell for every spell cast prior to it. For every spell cast prior during the turn the storm spell is cast. Now, does this stop things like Doubling Season? No. Since doubling season doubles your tokens, that means that during my turn, if I'm a red mage, okay, if I'm a red planeswalker, I don't even know what doubling season is. I'm assuming doubling season is probably green, but either way, let's say that I know the spell Empty the Warrens, I know the spell Shock, and I know the spell Doubling Seasons. I can use Shock, which is an instant ability. Okay? I can do it now. Then I cast Empty the Warrens. It creates 2, it storms once, I get 4 tokens. On my next turn, I use Doubling Season, and I can turn my 4, if they're still alive, into 8. Or, PC Unicorn says it's green. If you create a token, create 2 instead. Sounds more like an enchantment, I guess. So I guess play Doubling Season first, and then play Shock and Empty the Warrens. At which point, it would create 2, thus it would create 4, and then because it storms once, the 4 would turn into 8. Either way, it still works. And it would still be absolutely terrifying. Because if you're on the field, and if you ever played a tabletop game before, you know how combat works. You roll for initiative, you take turns and everything. But for what planeswalker on the field to just, wave their hands, speak the words, and suddenly now there are 8 goblins on the field. Yeah, you might just turn around and run. There's not enough unsummons in the world for that. However, again, getting back to the blue deck, while there aren't enough unsummons in the world for that, 2 words: counter spell. I mean, nobody likes it, nobody wants it, but counterspell is notable for a reason. So long as you have 2 blue available, you can just make it so whatever it is doesn't happen. And so the other player can go ahead and set up Doubling Season, they can play the Shock, they can go to play Empty the Warrens, and the other planeswalker just says, counterspell. And you get no tokens, you get no goblins, and you don't even get to have your don't even get to have your spell per day back. So I'm not too worried about it, actually. I don't think Storm will be nearly as bad in our game as it is in the card game. Affinity is super easy, but it's already noon, so I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end things here. Besides that, I need to go kind of die for a while. It's alright, I'll get better, I promise. I live in a Monty Python sketch. I'm going to get turned into a newt. I'll get better. So, I like it. We did... Wow, I actually did a lot today. Now that I'm looking at it. We did Shadow, Echo, Horsemanship, Fading, Kicker, Flashback, Fear, Morph, Amplify, Provoke, and Storm. That's a decent amount of progress. And I like some of these cards. Like, I don't think I have much use for the Horsemanship one. I don't know necessarily what I would do with it. But I like the idea of morph creatures. They're fun. You just cast a whole bunch of morph creatures and just have these little formless walking mannequins around you. And then turn them into the Harlem Globetrotters or something. Could be fun. But yeah, we still have a lot to do. Next time, Affinity Entwine Modular Sunburst. Sunburst is going to be kind of lame, I think. Like, normally Sunburst is really special because you have to have a very specific deck to make Sunburst work. And Sunburst is just it's going to work. Because there's going to be like 1 mana available at all times unless we change things. And maybe I should. We already discussed that, maybe running the risk of not having any of one type of mana available could be... It could be interesting. I mean, what are you going to do if, like, you are a counter planeswalker and you walk into an area that just has no blue mana? Oh no, you're one trick and it's gone. We can discuss it more next time. We'll discuss it more next time when we get there. So, for now though, I want to thank everyone for coming out. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got something from it. Thank you for all the comments in the chat, helping me work this stuff out. It was very helpful. If you want to see more of this though, you got to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's either into Pathfinder or Magic the Gathering, then share this video with them, because they'll probably enjoy it. Otherwise though, if you're just like me, you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video. That's what the button's there for. So hit the like button. If you want to leave a comment down below, you can do that too. But if you're going to leave a comment, why not just go all the way? Join the Discord server, and then you can leave comments at me all the time there. And if you want to play with us, go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what your availability and your interest is, and I'll try to find a group for you. So, I hope to see you there. I hope to see you next week when we come back and keep working on this. So, yeah, that's about it. Have a good week. Have a good holiday. I try not to date these videos, but it is Christmas time, so have a good Christmas, and I will see you after the season. And until then, take care.